Nicknamed the Moroccan Dakar, today's stage lay between Nador and Er Rachidia, and the competitive section alternated between fast stretches and twistier routes near the Algerian border, before taking to the tarmac roads to finish the liaison to the bivouac. And so bikers prepared this morning to set off from the north coast town of Nador, the link with Spain into Africa. Morocco is still largely populated by the descendants of the Berber inhabitants who settled the area thousands of years ago and at one time controlled all the land between Morocco and Egypt. It's a diverse country scenery-wise, with 4 distinct mountain ranges interspersed by plateaus and plains, with around 28 million people living in Morocco. Well, there wasn't a great deal of time for Stefan Peter-Hansel to look at the scenery as he set off on the route today, and indeed Stefan Peter-Hansel set the fastest time, although he was only second fastest at the penultimate checkpoint. A final burst of speed saw him take the stage win by 1 minute and 5 seconds, and thus take the overall lead by over 2 minutes. Richard Sankt, number 5, 12 seconds behind Tiernan over the 150-mile stage. Richard Sankt was actually third fastest today and moved up to second position overall, the man who won the Atlas Rally in 1997. So second fastest today was this man, Kari Tiernan on the KTM, fastest up to the third checkpoint, but pipped by the Yamaha rider Peter-Hansel at the end. The 6 times World Enduro champion getting used to Dakar riding conditions for the first time, and he's moved up to a very impressive third place overall. Number 19, Juan Roma, 6th today, the 25-year-old Spaniard who'd gone well in Spain, suitably enough, but he was nearly 7 minutes slower than Stefan Peter-Hansel, and that dropped him down to 4th place overall. Roma, winner of the 1995 Baja Aragon, and anxious to get a good performance in on this year's Dakar. And Frenchman, another KTM rider, so many of them below Peter-Hansel in the ranking now. Alain Perez, he was 5th today, and he rides in 5th place in the overall standings. But today was a real chance for all the competitors to get into some good, long, twisty African terrain. Giovanni Sala was also running competitively once again today. The other enduro rider who's gone so well on the event so far, set the 11th fastest time, perhaps more impressive on the shorter European stages, but the 3 times enduro world champion in the 250 class on his first Dakar, 34-year-old Italian, just perhaps finding his feet in Morocco. There's some good performances today as well from the likes of Andy Hayden of Australia. The man from Adelaide, winner of the 1997 Australian Safari, which earned him this ride on a Works KTM on the Dakar. Andy Hayden was 7th fastest today and moves up into 8th place overall. A very impressive performance from the Australian. Jordi Arcaron's also going reasonably well today. He was 8th fastest. He's moved up to 9th overall. The 35-year-old Spaniard who's switched from motocross to enduro riding to become 4 times the Spanish champion and winner of the Atlas and Master Rallies, still to win this classic Dakar event. Well, he's a little bit off the pace at the moment, but don't count Jordi Arcaron's out yet. He will gradually move up the order, I'm sure, as we go through the next few days. And another one of the top riders to watch out for, Fabrizio Mioni. 9th place on the stage today, and he's now in 10th place overall, also riding on the KTM. And in fact, the top 11 places, except for the all-important #1 position, are filled by KTMs. The first BMW is that of Eddie Orioli here, the #2 rider, the Italian, former 4-time winner of the event, but down in 11th place overall. Having said that, his gap between himself and Peter Hansel is just under 14 minutes, and that's a gap that can easily be made up on the longer stages still to come. There were some other impressive performances today, notably for the South African rider, the 8 times winner of the Roof of Africa rally, Alfie Cox, who was 4th fastest today. Very impressive indeed, and he's obviously going to be one to watch, also on a KTM. As for the British riders, John Deacon lies in 14th place. He's still going well. Simon Pavey, 79th. Nicholas Craigie of the Irish team is 104th. Adrian Lappin, 121st. Vinnie Fitzsimon is 124th, and Richard Fair is 136th. There are still some results to come in at the end of the day. It was very tricky today. The main difficulty was to avoid falling. I fell again, like yesterday. But thankfully without problems, just like yesterday again, except for a few marks on the bike. But really no problem. I lost perhaps 1 or 2 minutes, not so much, and most important, I didn't hurt myself. Well, I've already been talking about how the top 10 places, apart from that Yamaha of Peter Hansel, are filled by KTMs, and KTM have got their strongest team ever, including 10 works riders this year, split into 2 teams. The factory team has 2 trucks supporting them, and of course, Heinz Kinnigadner in charge of the whole operation.
I like to have a big team because, like last year, after 5 days, all our team was almost finished because of having crashes and technical problems. So this year we have the double number of riders.
Heinz Kinnigadner, a great rider himself, although never having won the Dakar. Last year here he crashed out and unfortunately was unable to continue. And a very nasty crash on the Australian Safari the year before last has seen him have to avoid riding for a while, but still a very important man in control of the KTM outfit. So the results of today's stage then. Peter Hansel setting the pace by over a minute from Kari Tiernen and Richard Sankt. Alfie Cox from South Africa, that great performance, 4th fastest. Alain Perez and Juan Roma 5th and 6th. And in the overall standings, Peter Hansel now has the lead by just under 2.5 minutes from Richard Sankt, with Kari Tiernen, Juan Roma, Alain Perez and Alfie Cox moving up into 6th place.
Best in sports and recreation, made Malaysia your destination in 1998.
You may be surprised at just how far the new Mitsubishi Pajero will take you.
Hi! So, how about a ride?
The all-terrain vehicle that redefines freedom.
swing into 1998. Put more punch into your year with 2 hours of live boxing from Brighton. All adrenaline action. Live boxing from Brighton. 20:30 CET, that's 7:30 UK on Eurosport.
Back to the Paris-Dakar Rally with
Euromaster, the European tyre specialist.
Last night, of course, the competitors took the ferry boat from Spain to North Africa, and that included Jutta Kleinschmidt, who's following the whole event for us here on Eurosport. She says, well, we're on the boat now, we have left Granada, and in the early hours of the morning, we'll be in Morocco. The crossing's not too long, it takes about 4 hours, and the competitors use this time to get some rest and relax a little bit. We arrive at around 6 o'clock in the morning, and then we have the first special in Africa. Everybody obviously is happy to be on the boat, to be out of Europe. There's always that worry that something silly will go wrong, prevent you from reaching Africa at all, but everyone who's here very relieved. This year there are so many competitors that the organisation has had to use 2 ferries to bring them over, half in one, half in the other, and to meet again in the harbour of Nador. This is Jutta Kleinschmidt for Eurosport. So as Jutta went off to relax a little bit before the start of 2 weeks of driving in Africa and trying to get that buggy up to the top of the classification once again. The car competitors got ready this morning to get underway. Jiro Shinazuka just catching up on a little bit of sleep this morning. American Larry Ragland looking forward to this part of it all.
Stage for us. Finally, we're into Africa, and we're more into the desert and away from the water and the mud. So it should be a better race for us today.
The race today, it's the stage is similar like 95, with a lot quite fast, with a lot of big holes, and we have to be really precise on the notes. And I think we have to take our marks.
And off they set this morning, getting away for the start of just about 150 miles of competitive driving. Bruno Sabi, the winner of 3 of the 4 stages held before this one, the man from Grenoble, maintained his overall lead today, even if he didn't manage to quite win the stage. Only 1 minute slower than the fastest today, and with a lead of 1 minute 14 seconds. Jean-Louis Schlesser, the leading 2-wheel drive machine on the event, but he lost around 8 minutes to the all-dominant Mitsubishis today. Also trying to stay in the hunt, the Toyotas of Jose Maria Servia and Philippe Vonberg, but they were to be a little out of luck today. Indeed, it proved to be a bad day for Toyota, for both Servia and Vonberg. Number 207, Philippe Vonberg, was the main loser. He lay in 4th place overall after Spain, after an excellent run on both stages near Granada, but today both of them damaged their front suspension. For Servia, it meant he dropped down to 22nd in the stage ranking, but it was much, much worse for Vonberg. He lost over 2 hours and came in finally 88th today, but obviously that's dropped him way out of the reckoning. Jutta Kleinschmidt also getting into this first African stage, co-driven by Matthew Stevenson of the United Kingdom. And on board, Matthew on the left, Jutta Kleinschmidt at the wheel during part of today's stage. Kleinschmidt, now 35-year-old, former bobslayer. She competed on the Dakar some 4 years and then switched to cars. This is her 4th Dakar on 4 wheels, and she won the 2-wheel drive class in last year's event. Today, though, picking up a puncture during the course of the stage, we saw them have to pull over, stop and change the wheel as quickly as possible. The spares of the buggy held underneath the rear engine cover, just nestling above the engine. So Kleinschmidt lost a little bit of time during the course of that, but they still set the 7th fastest time, and she lies in 6th place overall. Fastest today, though, was this car, number 209 of Hiroshi Masuoka, German co-driver Andreas Schulz. They were fastest on a long stage in this Mitsubishi that's prepared in Japan, not in France like the cars of Sabi, Fontenay and Shinazuka. Masuoka himself, a former Japanese off-road champion, twice finished in 4th place on the Dakar, including last year. Jean-Pierre Fontenay was also running very competitively on today's stage, overtaking some of the bikers. The bikers actually started off this morning before they set the cars off, but obviously some of the tail-end bikers were overtaken by the faster cars. The V6 petrol engines of the Mitsubishis powering them across the sand, but Sabi here having a problem, a bit late realising that there was a big hole in front of him, locked everything up, hit it pretty hard, but thankfully without doing any damage. These cars, of course, extremely well protected beneath with sump guards and all sorts of ironmongery to make sure that no damage is done when they do ground them heavily, and Sabi getting away with that little moment. Larry Ragland was going extremely well today, co-driven by Jérôme Rivière, who's a very successful driver on the Dakar himself in the past, but he's actually sitting in the co-driver's seat and giving Larry Ragland useful tips and experience that he can pass on as they attack this African stage. He set the 6th fastest time today and has moved up into 5th place overall, 20 minutes behind Sabi. He did have to stop for a moment and strap some of the bits and pieces down in the back, but it didn't really lose him too much time. So a good day for Larry Ragland. Not quite so good for his teammates. Pierre Lartigue was 23rd fastest today, and Henri Pescarolo was 30th. Well, we picked up a puncture pretty early in the stage, but we knew that it would be more difficult once we got to Africa anyway. But it's not serious. We lost perhaps 3 or 4 minutes to change the wheel, but lost very little to our rivals, so it's not such a bad day. So Hiroshi Masuoka, the fastest today. A bit of a surprise perhaps for the Japanese driver, but a great performance, seeing 4 Mitsubishis there at the top of the table. Schlesser, the fastest of the 2-wheel drive machines, in 5th. Overall, Sabi still leads. His lead 1 minute 14 seconds over teammate Fontenay, with Shinazuka a little further back. Then there's a bit of a bigger gap to Schlesser, Ragland and Jutta Kleinschmidt holding on to 6th position. The special stages increase in length again tomorrow as the circus moves further southwest in Morocco. The time section up to 344 kilometres, a little over 200 miles on the way to Ouarzazate, which borders the Sahara Desert. Some great scenery on the way as well, but the competitors may not have a great deal of time to enjoy it. And of course there'll be more from the Dakar with our daily reports here on Eurosport tomorrow. Remember, 9:30 in the UK, 10:30 CET. From Ben Edwards, I hope you can join us again tomorrow. For now, bye-bye.
The Paris-Dakar Rally with
Euromaster, the European tyre specialist.